Are you more late to the party than even I am when it comes to reading Where the Crawdads Sing? Or alternatively, did you read Where the Crawdads Sing when it first came out and it was like so long ago now that you just want to reminisce about good old times? Either way, welcome. I am Gemma with Reading Gems, and I'm trying to rebuild my reading habit because these little chaos machines back here, I let them distract me, and I haven't been reading as much as I used to, and it makes my life sadder. So I'm rebuilding my routine, and I watched Where the Crawdads Sing, and it was such a good book. I thought this is a great one to dive in, to restart, to jumpstart things, because it's amazing. So if you haven't read it, you should listen in. If you haven't watched it, you should listen in, because you should totally read this book. It's really good, unless you don't like what I like. Here is the brief, spoiler-free overview of Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens.
Is that my voice? Is that my voice? Oh well.
The protagonist of this book, Kaya, is left by her family members one by one till she is alone in her hut by about 10 years old. The marsh becomes her mother, which is what she says. You see the marsh on the cover of this book, and once you finish reading it, the marsh will feel like your old friend, even if you, like me, have never visited a marsh. The book follows a split timeline, so the tension of a future, that is a 1969 murder investigation, can bring some conflict and momentum to Kaya's present, which starts in the 1950s. Kaya's childhood and early adulthood, for all of its trauma, has been written beautifully to be a cozy, fascinatingly different existence to our modern one. But by the last third of the book, the present catches up to the future in 1970, and Kaya sits accused of murder, and the question is, will the bias of the jurors lead to her conviction? Along the way, there are two closed-door romance plotlines that, in my opinion, aren't a love triangle because they're staggered in time. In case you, like me, are trying to resurrect your reading self, and especially if you're doing that with mini-humans in tow, here's my assessment of how approachable this book is. The awake at 2 a.m. test. If your eyes are as grey as a raccoon with fatigue, you should be okay with this book. Some of the plot might get lost in the gorgeous descriptions of Kaya's environment, but this isn't a whodunit mystery that you'll feel compelled to guess the murderer in. You can just glide along in your riverboat with Kaya and enjoy the journey. You won't miss the landmarks of the plot for glazing over a paragraph or two during or after a long night. Oxytocin, or the love hormone. There are two sections of the book that are stressful enough to slow let down. There's an essay scene that lasts only a couple of pages, and there's the build-up to the verdict that goes for several chapters near the end and is quite compelling. For the rest, there's a beautiful romance, a lusty, dangerous romance, plenty of tear-jerker moments, and did I mention the relaxing scenery? Potential for neglect of mini-human and other responsibilities, aka is it a page-turner? I've seen the movie, so I knew how it ends, which might skew my verdict here, but I was able to put this book down when I needed to. I wanted to pick it up again within a day or two, but I wasn't tempted to lose sleep or neglect my kids for this story. My children did see me crying a couple of times, so bear that in mind, but I wasn't sobbing, and they should know that books can be touchingly beautiful. So for me, this was a perfect mix of compelling enough to go back to without leading to scrolling levels of neglect. Changing pace a little bit, because I'm not only trying to rebuild myself as a book nerd, I'm also writing a novel, and one of the things I'm trying to do is find books that are similar to the one that I'm writing, comp titles, as it were. And you might not really care that I'm writing, and that's fine. I come for the books that I'm reading and I'm sharing with you, but just so you know, these are my favorite parts of the books. And if you like this sort of thing that I'm mentioning from these books that I'm reading, then chances are good that you're gonna like the book that I'm writing as well. And if and when it comes out, you might like reading it. So if you share my tastes, subscribe to my channel, because we likely have similar tastes and we can help each other build our to be read lists, even if that does or does not include the novel that I may or may not eventually finish and publish. Here we go. Landscape as character, one of my absolute favorite tropes. I grew up in a semi-arid desert, which is vastly different to Kaya's swamp. The two environments, however, share a non-moralized attitude towards death and suffering among humanity. But Kaya's environment is far more nurturing than what I'm writing, or what William Golding wrote his Lord of the Flies tropical jungle to be. Kaya's marsh is her mother and her scientific life work. Kaya's environment is actually nurturing. And I might reread this book when I want a hug from the natural world. Wild child. Kaya grew up mostly alone, and she is a painfully shy person, literally hiding in the bushes from most humans, even as an adult. Just like the landscape, she is sweeter than most wild child depictions. Someone you want to protect, rather than a person you can't decide whether they're wolf or sheepdog. It's an interesting twist on the wild child trope. Twists. Since we're talking about twists, there is what I think was set up to be a big twist at the end of the book. I saw it coming. Even in the movie, I saw it coming. Maybe it's because I read too much dark fantasy as a teenager. I read it. Maybe because my childhood wasn't trauma-free and was full of nature. Maybe because Delia Owens put too much foreshadowing in her story. There was still a poetic twist in the twilight of Kaya's story that I didn't see coming, but it wasn't big enough to surprise me. The story went where anticipated. It was cozy, not twisty. Overcoming trauma. Kaya has deep and lasting childhood traumas, and a couple of doozies as an adult too, for good measure. This walks the line between being a Grimm's fairy tale and a Disney-type tale. There's a happy ending, an almost always likable protagonist, and beautiful description, but the pragmatism and trauma is deeper and wider than a modern princess suffers. Kaya doesn't so much overcome her trauma as integrate it and find a part of herself that can authentically add value to the world without leaning on her trauma-caused weaknesses, which has to be the ideal outcome for anyone. The treatment of trauma is why this story is sticky to me. It's why I wanted to read the book after watching the movie. Let me explain, because the treatment of trauma in Crawdads is countercultural and so worth dwelling on for a minute. If you're like me, then you were told you can be anything you want. But it's not true for most of us, and I think this story tells a more honest view of human potential. It says you can find a way to be you, to sustain yourself, and to contribute, even with the setbacks of trauma, prejudice, and unpopular personal preferences. But your life probably won't look like the idealized one in your culture. It's a less peppy message, but it resonates with my experience, or at least my hopes. And I think those of us who bought up on that myth that it's physically possible to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, we need to internalize the message of Kaya's life, that you don't need to bury your hurt or yourself to be a worthwhile person, to create and to contribute and find a way of belonging. In all, this was a cozy read with realistic pain that has a contented ending. It's enjoyable without being impossible to put down. It has gorgeous prose that glides effortlessly along, taking you past all the places you've been promised you'll visit. Thank you for watching all the way to the end of this, my very first BookTube video. If you've liked the video, please like the video and subscribe if you want to hang out and talk books and maybe rebuild your reading groove like I am doing. I'm Gemma, and this has been Reading Gems.